Hello ladies and gentlemen, nice to see you today. My name is Dustin Cormier and you're watching How to Rock Astrology. Today we're going to be talking about what it's like when you have natal Sun in Virgo opposite Mars in the sign of Pisces. I'm going to be giving my own expressions of this aspect and then I'm going to, at the very end, we're going to kind of take a little bit of a reading from Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega in order to fill out the tangible dimension of this aspect. I'm mostly going to be describing this through my own philosophical, astrological method, I should say. I am a tropical Vedic astrologer. Tropical meaning I use Western measurements. I don't go back 24 signs, or 24 degrees rather, like other Vedic astrologers. I use tropical Western measurements, but I apply ancient Indian and Vedic astrological wisdom to them. And I like to blend both. So if you're watching this, I invite you as a Westerner to consider the wisdom I bring from the Eastern method. And if you're a Vedic astrologer, I invite you to consider what this Western consciousness, I like to fit them both so we can get a bit of both in each of these readings. So welcome. Ultimately, I would say that this is a good combination. Sun in Virgo is not the best or hottest place for the Sun, but we're going to essentially talk about the fact that the Mars and Pisces here really brings a lot, really complements and compensates for a lot of the ills that we know often accrues by having the Sun in Virgo. This includes over-modesty, putting reliability at the expense of your true desires in life, your responsibilities and duties to the things in the moment often obstruct Virgo from going for what they really want to go for because they'd rather hang in a reliable, secure, lifestyle in which they can reliably, consistently, constantly project the self and glamour and glory that you desire to project yourself through. Virgo Sun wants to attract to themselves or be attracted to some kind of reliable job. And it's the security of that constancy that allows them to constantly get that little bit of glory. And if the Sun is well placed, if it's got aspects from its friends like Mars here, then it is going to get the constant glorification that it seeks. And if it's well placed, it won't lose too much of that. But it always loses a bit of what it could do by securing itself to things that are more secure than daring. It's just the way Sun in Virgo is. The reason for this astrologically relates to the fact mostly that the Sun here is behind, it's coming up to debilitation, and it's only one sign away from its debilitation point. As I say in all these videos, debilitation really works by proximity. You might read in Western texts that say that the Sun is debilitated in Libra. So you can say, oh, my Sun is in Virgo, so thankfully I miss that, right? Well, not exactly. Your Sun is only one sign away from that debilitation point. It's still very close to the area of Libra, which means that this Sun, being this close to Libra, is thinking more, it's projecting itself through the mirror, through the image of what others think is a good, reliable way to express yourself. You're looking at what the world around you can offer as a secure channel for your glorification. It's your family, wherever you're close to, your chosen field that feels secure and comfortable and reliable to you. You're looking more at trends and things that are immediately outside of yourself rather than the constant challenge from within yourself. Aries is more about yourself. Libra is more about others. The Sun is so close to Libra here that you're thinking more about the other person the other people you involve yourself with, than you are about your own instincts, your own potentials. It's okay, because that's just part of what Virgo is. And while it's close to debilitation, it doesn't mean that it's not useful where it is. You have to apply. You can't just see yourself as a Virgo sun and say, well, I want to be more like an Aries sun. It's not going to really work that way. You still are a Virgo, and you want to apply yourself to that which will satisfy you and which will ground yourself in your nature. And being the sun in Virgo, that reliable person, is going to do that. Now, thankfully, what is interesting about this position is that the sun in Pisces is essentially going to ensure that you do not lose too much of your own preferred nature, of yourself, of your preferential way of expressing yourself. You're not going to lose that. The reason is because you have Mars in Pisces. And these two are bound to be aspecting each other. Even if the sun is at like 0 degrees and Mars is at like 29 degrees of Pisces, I mean, that's a very wide orb. And it's not going to be as strong as when, you know, the sun is at, say, 15 degrees of Virgo and Mars is at 15 degrees of Pisces. That's like an exact orb, and that will be stronger. But in Vedic astrology, we can still consider that these two are opposite by sign. And this gives great strength to the sun and to Mars, because the sun and Mars are best friends. The sun is in the sign of a neutral. The sun is neutral to Mercury. So it's not a great place for the sun by the rulership of Mercury. It doesn't obstruct the sun necessarily, but it's also, it doesn't delight the sun. It's neutral by dignity, although by being so close to its debilitation point, it's worse than Gemini. Sun in Virgo is worse than Sun in Gemini because it's so close to Libra, its debilitation point. Now, by having Mars opposite the Sun here, the Sun is uplifted from much of that drudgery, much of that thinking, overthinking, and overanalyzing on who you're supposed to be, on how to enjoy yourself, on how to get the highest and best expression of your energy in every little moment. Mars in Pisces is going to up the ante on that. Now, the Sun and Mars, part of the reason why this is a good thing is that the Sun and Mars are actually best friends. This is part of my Vedic wisdom. In the Western astrology, every opposition is considered a tense aspect, and it's a bad thing, no matter what. In the West, oppositions are as bad as squares. They have much energy in a difficult, rigid way. That's how the West describes it. Indian astrology does not describe it like that at all, at all, at all. What defines whether an aspect, especially the opposition aspect, it's one of the strongest aspects you can have between two planets. And what defines whether it's good or bad is the archetypal nature of those planets, whether they jive together well. Now, it doesn't take a genius to know that Mars and the Sun, they're both malefics. They're both hard planets, and they do put pressure on each other. But they are made to enjoy and understand the pressure that they're applying to each other here, because they're both like warrior upward energies. Sun and Mars, you ought to know, anybody ought to intuit the fact that Sun and Mars are best friends. They're both fiery planets. They're both hot warrior planets. Masculine, yang, full outgoing expression from within, based on what the self is. In fact, in Western astrology, Mars is considered to be the general, the lieutenant of the Sun. And Mars applies the mind. We apply our minds through Mars to get a grip on what the Sun is trying to do. So this is essentially a Virgo ego that's trying to apply itself, get what it wants to get done through the archetype of Mars in Pisces. And, you know, just by sign, this is going to be what it is. But you know, I do want to point out the fact that according to Indian astrology, this is a very good aspect to have Sun opposite Mars. Mars here is uplifting the Sun with this aspect. So that the Sun in Virgo here is always going to be pushed to feel internally like you are getting the most energy, expressing the most energy that you can in each and every little individual moment. And how it does this is through the magic of your own internal enjoyment. Now, Sun in Virgo naturally thinks that putting yourself in a hard, disciplined state or just gritting your teeth and getting through it with a smile, being a smiling serviceman, you know, having the dirt and bike grease on your hands and just like, you know, just being full of your dirty clothes from being a mechanic or whatever it is that you do to get your hands dirty, you know, like you're full of this, like, you don't necessarily, you could be a lawyer and you have a suit and you're well-to-do and you're like a well-dressed businessman, but you're still getting in the shit with whoever it is that you're doing your job with. And while you're there, you're sitting patiently and you're listening to the other person and, you know, you're doing your thing. The Virgo ego is okay with doing hard work that nobody else really wants to do. You are proud of your ability to be that kind of serviceman, right? Now, because of this, because of the way of the ego, the Virgo ego is framed, it often has a psychological instinct to be okay with people kind of stepping on it, or you're kind of okay with being given a second banana position, some kind of service industry job where you're just shining people's shoes, or you're doing something that's like puts you underneath the dignity of those who you're working for, but you gain dignity and glory by being the one person who did the thing that no one else wants to do, and people will respect you for it. You know, a Virgo is respected for its ability to speak to difficulties in a relationship, you know, because then once you communicate them clearly, your partner knows what the problems are, and you can continue to grow from you having analyzed that problem and spoken to it. It can turn a little too much and it can get naggy, especially if your Virgo is ill-placed, especially if your Mercury is in like Leo. Actually, it does okay in Leo. It's more like Cancer. Mercury doesn't do as well in Cancer, and it doesn't do as well in Scorpio if your Mercury's over there in Scorpio too. The point here is that the Sun in Virgo often allows itself to get stepped on or to do jobs that are less dignified than others in order to get its glory. Here, the Mars in Pisces is not, it's not as easily going to do that. Or if you do find whatever job you do, you're going to always have a buoyant, optimistic personality that people see. And whoever works with you, you're not going to have that grit. I just got to do this because this is just the job, or your smile won't be faked because you've got that Mars in Pisces. The Mars in Pisces puts a huge, you know, by the way, if you're watching this, I actually have a Mars in Pisces video, and you can see what Mars in Pisces, it's like a 40-minute video, and it's all about what Mars in Pisces is all about. And I contend in all these videos that Mars in Pisces is way more outgoing and expressive and fun and optimistic and lively and positive than most Westerners would contend. Because most Westerners think that Pisces is just this dead, mute service energy where you're just being a sop-up sponge, you're quiet, you're listening to those around you, and it's not true at all for Mars in Pisces. Mars in Pisces is driven by an internal preference principle, where, you know, Jupiter anciently rules Pisces as well as Saturn. And we know Saturn is about the outgoing preference thing, you know. If you have Mars in Sagittarius, it means you are going to express yourself in an outgoing way to many different types of things and are always changing and trying out these different things based on your outgoing preference, what you want to get. Mars in Pisces is still ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is your internal buoyant luck. So Mars in Pisces applies itself to get the will of the king, in this case the Sun in Virgo. Mars in Pisces does the Sun in Virgo's will by applying itself to what I would call this preferential principle, the internal preference, the experiences that you seek to have. That's how you get around. That's how you manifest your will, is by putting yourself in experiences that you know that you enjoy. And the funny mystical thing about Mars and Pisces is that you know that the self in one is the self in all. There's a universal preference principle here where, for example, you know, the example I've been giving for a lot of these videos is like a computer chair that's ergonomically designed. It's got the thing that perfectly designed for your back and your arms. It's got the little up or down, you know, thing, so that it perfectly is designed for your back to make your job sitting on your computer easier. Now, a Mars and Pisces person knows ergonomics and knows that the design of that chair will make anyone sitting in a computer, it'll make their lives easier. So Mars and Pisces will know what is the preferential principle that other people enjoy. And you will know not only what most people like, but also you will know whether the individuals that you work with like those universal principles. You'll find out just by talking to people where they are, what their likes are, what their preferences are, and you'll know whether they can work with your type of preference. What's amazing about this Mars and Pisces is that Virgo knows this too, actually. Virgo and Pisces are both on this universal preference principle, this ergonomics, the design of things that'll make things easier. Virgo does that naturally, but Virgo, the ego, the sun in Virgo, ego, will help others to make their lives easier without helping themselves. The Mars and Pisces principle helps themselves in ways which make other people's lives also easier. Do you get that? That's an important thing here. The Mars in Pisces in you is deliciously, unapologetically catering to its own preference, so that you're not going to lie to people. You're not going to tell them that you're not going to do things that you don't enjoy as much, because you have faith that you are allowed to enjoy the things that you put yourself through. And you're not just going to do some crappy job for someone. Like, you will, because you're a Virgo and you seek to employ reliability. You know, Virgo is the one, I always give the example of Virgo, where it's like you're a mechanic, and as a mechanic, you know, let's say you close up shop at 6 o'clock every day because you want to still enjoy your life, you know. But then someone comes along at 5:30 with a big car and says, "Hey, just so you know, it's 5:30. My car just broke down, and I need you to replace the wheel." And so you know that in order to replace this person's wheel, it's going to take another 2 hours, and that's going to set you down to 7:30, and you're supposed to get off at 6. Now, you might say to your wife, you know, like, "Hey, honey, I promised you," you might call your wife and say, "Hey, honey, I promised that I'd be home at 6, but there's a guy here who needs his wheel fixed, and it's 5:30, so I'm not going to be home till 7:30. A Virgo will do that. They'll call their wife and they say, "Hey, hon, I know we were supposed to hang out and watch that movie tonight, but somebody's here. It's good for the business. They might get us some business later on, so I'm gonna do it for this person." Now, the Mars and Pisces here probably has some funny way of doing it where you can call your wife and you'll say, "Hey, honey, we were supposed to do that thing at 6 o'clock, but you're not gonna be a bummer about it." You'll say, "Darling, guess what? Somebody has called and they're looking to do this job, so I'm not gonna be able to come home until 7:30 tonight. But it's almost like, you know, you'll be able to convince your wife that you'll make it up to her, and when you get home, you will make it up to her, because, and even while you're doing this job for this person, you'll enjoy it." Or you won't take the job. If this person's pushing you and being a dick and saying, "Look, you have to do this because you're a mechanic, and you can go and I can go and get business somewhere else," you have a swagger to make that person convinced. "Look, man, I will do the job for you, but like, hey, I'm doing a job for you here. I usually go home at 6. My wife wants to hang out with me. I'll do this job for you if you give me a little extra something, something. You don't want pay me the little extra something. I'm really coming out of my way here for this, dude. So if you want me to do this for you, I'll do it for you. But it's going to cost you a little extra. And afterwards, I'll give you my business card and I'll do it for you good. I'll make you happy that you paid me that extra buck. Right? This is you having the Mars and Pisces. Like, whereas a normal Virgo would just do it because they need to feel that security. And this is what they do for their job. They know my job will do better if I do this. And they'll get neurotic. A normal Virgo will get neurotic in order to do what their responsible duty is. The Mars in Pisces is swagger. And you are way too enjoyable to be sucked under by anyone else's pressure, anyone else's magnetism over you. You have a way of combining your reliability, your willingness to work hard at the meticulous, crappy details in life, but you're good at finding glory and beauty and comedy in all those shitty little details in life. And B, you will stand up for yourself. You know what your preferences are. You know how you work best with other people. And you can stay reliable. You can stay consistent. You can be the person who's there for your friends, family in those moments. But you'll always do it with a swagger and in a way where people feel like you are a solid tree unto yourself. You'll push yourself to have dignity, so you're not just sucked under other people's desires, but still being reliable, still being that dutiful, humble servant to those people who you surrender your livelihood to. And they'll want to hang out with you because you won't do it with the sad sap personality that often comes through Virgo. You'll do it with confidence and vigor. It'll be your pleasure. It'll be your skill, really. What it comes down to is that you are a Virgo who actually has skills with knowing how to manipulate and work people to your advantage while still doing the service that you implied that you would do. Remember, this is just the Sun and Mars, you know, so like this is only going to say so much about your romantic personality. What it really does show is that both of these planets in these signs are receptive. Virgo's receptive. Virgo will make a great strategized plan on how to have a date night, how to have a plan for your lover, where you'll plan the atmosphere. We'll go to this restaurant. I'll spend a little bit extra money from my account so we can go to this restaurant, have this classic, experience, this sensual, delightful experience. And all the while, the whole time, like you're somebody who can really enjoy using your money that you've worked hard for to give someone that like flashy experience. Or, you'll also be willing to like, honey, it's Friday night at 6 p.m. I don't have any extra hard work to do tonight. We don't have to do anything fancy. Let's go to the bowling alley and have a beer. And you'll go to the bowling alley, you'll have that beer on that date with that person, and you'll have just as much fun as you might have had anywhere else at any big fancy thing. Because the Mars in Pisces knows how to have a good time with nothing. This is part of the self-enjoyment principle that Mars in Pisces brings to the Virgo, which is so willing to not enjoy itself for the sake of the other person. It's a real good yin and yang happening there. Now, that is my own derivation of your sign combination as a Virgo sun with Mars and Pisces. Now, to end this video today, we're going to talk about erotic astrology by Phyllis Vega, which is essentially, I always like to say in these videos, I like to express the erotic nature of the sign combinations to get a bit of a tangible sense of what Mars and the Sun are to your romantic chemistry. Because remember, this is just Mars and the Sun. For all we know, this is an empathic principle, but, if you don't have a well-placed Sun, if you don't have a well-placed Moon or Venus, or if your 4th house is not positioned well, if your 7th house is not positioned well, then you might be somebody who just manipulates these people that you can manipulate or be reliable for or keep under your need, as because you apply this service to people, and you also do it with such vigor, such fun, such psychological understanding, that people come to you because you're so good at applying yourself to what you do, to the service that you do, and you do it in such an enjoyable, charming way that people are just charmed by you. And this is the Sun and Mars. This is how you prefer to outgoingly express your energy. And certain people will be attracted to that based on your outgoing energy. It's just Sun and Mars, though. You know, you're not going to be necessarily an empathic person. You're not going to enjoy your empathy to other people if you don't have a good Sun and if you don't have a good Moon in Venus, is what I meant to say there. Because the Moon and Venus are the true arbiters of having value in relationships, considering the other person to be a part of your soul enjoyment that you're trying to express. And if you have a good Moon and a good Venus, you can make a great lover who deliciously is listening and is reliable to your partner. You make a great partner. But, ultimately, your Moon and your Venus are going to decide whether you put a value on your relationships. Ultimately, Virgo Sun in Mars and Pisces is just going to show a reliable, plucky person whose charm people enjoy, and that charm of Mars and Pisces allows you to get the most out of the Sun in Virgo. So Mars and Pisces is definitely one of the best placements for the Virgo Sun personality, because you apply yourself to your own enjoyment, which others are served by. Others are served by the way that you lead by enjoying yourself, by your charm. People want to have the charm that you have. And you have a way of knowing psychologically what others enjoy, what you enjoy, and how you can meet others through this enjoyment, through this preference, this design, this ergonomical design of the chair. Any business that you operate, people are going to be attracted to because your Mars is coming through Pisces, your 7th from the Sun. It's coming through a sense of what everyone else is going to be best served by in your Virgo Sun ego projection, right? So it's a great combination. Now let's take a quick little look at how it expresses itself erotically before we end the video here. This is Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega, talking about Sun in Virgo with Mars in Pisces. Sensual, sensitive, and concerned. You're a very easy person to love. Making your partner feel cherished and appreciated is your special talent. In bed and out. Something you apply in bed and something that you attract your lovers with your constant charm all the time. For you, physical love is a tender expression of deeper feelings. Physical love, the Virgo, who's good at so many different ways of pleasuring the body. This physical love is a tender expression of deeper feelings. The Mars in Pisces here deeply wants to have the fullest enjoyment and joyous expression of themselves. And they'll apply the Virgo ego, meticulousness, the strategizing, all these things. They'll apply that Virgo ego to the deeper enjoyment that this Mars is seeking, which is the enjoyment of yourself, who you are, how your personality is, and how it can have fun with others. The total and complete mingling of body, mind, and soul gives Mars in Pisces deep satisfaction, and the Virgo ego will make sure that it can do it reliably. It'll seek to do it reliably, constantly, and in varieties of ways for the partner and for themselves. You want a partner who is everything to you: lover, friend, spiritual companion, and creative equal. It's the 1st and 7th vibe going on there. When you find true love, you willingly sacrifice all for your partner. In return, you expect a sexual experience that is perfect, an effortless meshing of physical pleasure, emotional fulfillment, and intellectual understanding. The Virgo sun, again, is willing to get any old partner who gets the security that Virgo seeks and feels in the other person, but Virgos sometimes miss out on how it actually all feels functionally. The Mars and Pisces in you is very sensitive to whether the partner that you're dealing with and trying to get secure with really functionally works out for you at an emotional, mental, empathic level. And if they don't, you're willing to not roll with them. You'll experiment probably with lots of different people because Mars and Pisces is so willing to try it. But once Mars and Pisces feels that this is not functionally working, Virgo often holds on and says, oh, I don't care because I've already secured to this person. But there's something very special about you being able to say, for your own regard, no, I know that this is not going to functionally work out. I've expressed that in the Virgo will be not naggy, but objective and detached about how the Mars and Pisces seeks to apply itself in a relationship. And you'll just cut people out if they don't jive. I mean, the Virgo will see through it and analyze to the best of their efforts whether this thing could work out. But once Mars and Pisces doesn't feel it anymore, the Virgo is out. And that's a service to you. Most Virgos will painfully slave themselves to relationships that don't work because they think that's all they deserve. And everybody deserves more than that, but you know it. And that is what makes you not only special, not only do you know it, but you apply it. And you will not allow yourself to get sucked under a lesser human experience just because you feel the other person, because you've sworn your reliable allegiance to them at this or other time in your life. Once you feel that it's not functionally working out, the Mars and Pisces is just going to see it and do what it does, which is move towards your inner preference principle. And then again, you're still the Virgo, so you can suffer. You don't always expect your lover to be perfect. The Virgo can work through those moments, but the Mars and Pisces will be sensitive when it's ultimately not going to work. And that's a huge service to you. I recommend you take advantage of it, my friend, because you can make a great lover for that reason, if you're honest with yourself. And if you, again, this kind of ego can just manipulate lovers if you don't have a good moon and a good Venus. So I recommend, if you want to use this at its best, consider relationships to be a value of yours, or at least, consider the other person in the situation. Ultimately, if relationships aren't a huge value to you, then just do you. It's part of what I'm trying to describe in this series. It's a great combination. It's one of the better combinations for Virgo Sun, for sure. I hope you see that, and I hope you agree. And I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. This is already a long video, so I'm going to shut it down now. I'm Dustin Cormier for How to Rock Astrology. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, feel free to drop me a like, drop me a comment. Feel free to subscribe because I always got more stuff like this coming out on my channel. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll see you guys in the next one.